Hey guys, it's Matt Fielder with MJF Guide Service, giving you your August 20th fishing report for Table Rock Lake. Water level is at 916.81 as of today. The water temp's 84 to 87, depending on where you're at in the lake. It's still been pretty hot. We do have a cool front coming. I've kind of expanded on a couple more bites over the last week and a half since the last week's fishing report last Tuesday. So the main bite I've still been going on is the jig bite. On my trips I throw a lot of peewee football jigs due to the fact that we are throwing a lot of spinning rods. And it's something that people can still throw and fish relatively easily. The football jig, the peewee football jig has been awesome. I've been throwing the 7/16. This is Bass Whacker color. I've also been throwing a PB&J as well, and green pumpkin with some orange in it. Has been really good for me. As far as bait casting presentations, I still am throwing more of a finesse type football jig, so I'll trim the skirt a little bit, but I've been putting a 6-cent Bodega on it as a trailer, the 4.8 inch as well, and then sometimes I'll throw the 3.5 inch if I don't seem to be getting bid on that 4.8, but the 4.8 and the 3.5 inch Bodega from 6 cents has been a really good player for me. I've also been using that Bodega on a wobble head and just throwing it out as far as I can, letting it go to the bottom on some of these schools, and that thing's got a lot of action in that tail, even on a pause. So that's been really cool to see. Like, the amount of bites on a wobble head have actually picked up for me this summer now, throwing it on a wobble head, and also been throwing that 4.8 inch Bodega on a wobble head. The other bite that's still working is the drop shot bite for me. Still throwing the Morning Dawn, and after watching the Bodega in action on the wobble head, I've actually put it on the drop shot. And those legs really kind of move, and it seems like there's lifelike action. It seems like the fish are really targeting in a lot on like those smaller bluegills. I know a jig you can use as a bluegill bait, you can use it as a shad bait, you can use it as a crawdad bait, so it's really versatile. And I feel like this Bodega is another one of those really versatile baits to throw this time of the year, just because you can mimic, depending on which color that you're selecting, you can mimic a lot of things. And just by the action that it gives off has been getting me some bites. So that's something that, I got to go pick up a few more packs of them from Out and Outdoor Tackle here when this is over, for the trips the rest of the weekend, for my own personal fishing that I do after my trips, to just stay up on bites, try to develop new bites, and that's something that I've been adding into my arsenal over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, that has been a real eye-opener for me. I'm still throwing the shaky head, whether on the custom cast lures, and throwing in a Zoom Trick Worm or a Berkley Hit Worm, throwing it through brush piles and rock piles. Those have been my two best for the shaky head, have been in brush or rock piles. That's where I've gotten the most bites on the shaky head. Now, another bait I've been throwing around some of that stuff has been the flutter spoon. Still throwing the flutter spoon, guys. I mean, it seems to really trigger some bites. Sorry, I got stuck in the carpet. This is a Nichols Lures, Lake Forks flutter spoon that I have in my hand. I've also been throwing the Falcon flutter spoon by Dixie Jet. Those are my two favorite flutter spoons, and they just seem to get bit. You know, I have one of each kind of tied on. Some days one works better than the other, so I tie two on each time I go out, and kind of rotate. Some days it doesn't really matter. Of the two, they both get bit equally, but sometimes, you know, like the thing about the Falcon that I like is that it's got 3 trebles on it, so you can double up easier on it. And one thing I do sometimes, even on like just the Lake Fork, is I will put a stinger hook above it that slides up and down the line. It's got a feather and there's a treble, and I just put the line through the top, and so that way it floats freely, and you'll catch, you know, an extra fish doing that, because one may bite the spoon, but then another one coming up and fighting sees that little feather, and they'll grab onto it, and so you can double up. And I'll sometimes do that with the Falcon spoon as well, but since it's already got 3 trebles, I tend not to do it as much, but it'll still work for you. So the fishing's still pretty good. Now the thing that I have picked up other than the bodega is I've actually fished the bank a little bit more recently. And I'm not killing them on the bank, but if I can find a 45-degree angle bank or with shade on it, shade is huge in this instance. And I've even caught some on some flats, but it has to be early for the flats, whereas the steeper 45s or that ledgy type rock, as long as there's shade on it, or like a channel swing up next to it with shade. Shade is key. I've been throwing that football jig up there and just kind of working it back to me and catching quite a few fish doing it. So that's one thing that I've added over the last week and a half. You know, just trying to figure out, you know, because we're getting ready to transition into that fall pattern here, I would say in a month-ish. You know, it could come a little sooner, depends. You know, we do have a cool front coming, so it may push some of those fish into, you know, some of those fall type patterns. But then if we get a hot streak again, then it'll go back to more summery time stuff. But, you know, as the summer's gone on, I'm seeing a few more fish up shallow. I'm throwing a rock trawler a little bit up there, you know, on some of that shaded stuff. There's even some flats that I've been catching them on, where there's shade in the morning up on it, and you'll get some, you know, nice bites up there early if you can get on it. But fishing still pretty solid, guys. You know, the jig and the drop shot are still my two, you know, my 1-2 punch right now, as well as a flutter spoon. That'd be my third option right now. Fishing's still solid. It's still hot, but we're getting ready to, you know, come on a cool front this next week. I'm seeing some 70s in the forecast, so I'm really looking forward to that, getting out of this 100+ degree heat. But fishing's still good. So go out next, you know, the end of this week, put in some of these applications. Next week, as it starts cooling down, you know, you may want to go look for some shallower stuff, and you might want to, you know, spend an hour and a half in the morning in some of those shaded areas trying to catch some bass shallow, you know, to kind of break up the rhythm a little bit here. And you'd be surprised, there's some big ones that are going up there eating some bluegills right now. For you guys watching the channel, I'm doing a thing right now. You can get 10% off by mentioning this video using the term NationBass92. You'll get 10% off your next trip for MJF Guide Service. I'd love to take you guys out, show you a few things, and get you on the water. So until next week, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.